really take when the one you love the most holds the key and leaves you rolling in the wake of the demons and their endless misery?
So you've got a new album out.
Yeah, man. Wanderer's Compass is what I called it. And, it's some of my most, I guess, experimental and I feel innovative for myself yet.
Right. So when you say it's experimental, in what ways did you experiment, would you say?
Well, I've been building this thing for a while with my looping gear and all these instruments that I play. For a while, I recorded these 2 records in my RV while I was living in my RV, traveling the country. And I called them the RV sessions, and I carried gear with me to record. And I wanted to find a way, and I made all these demos, of songs that I was writing and stuff as I traveled the country. And I wanted to find a way. It was so fun to do the process to bring that to the live audience and make it viable for myself. So that's kind of what I set out on that trajectory and mission as a solo artist.
Right.
And I kind of just, experimented with a bunch of stuff. I spent a lot of time in the basement trying to figure out how to use a looping machine and bring all things together. But Wanderer's Compass is like a culmination of that. I wanted to incorporate the looper, but not all the time. I wanted to use it as like an extra instrument of sorts, and not be gimmicky was my thing, And so I had to sort of play around with that for what I thought was in good taste for a long time before I landed on that record.
Right. So in addition to your solo work, you're part of the Infamous Stringdusters. So how do you work differently? Most of the tracks on Wanderer's Compass, I'm assuming you're playing almost everything yourself. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. I have, most of it I'm playing myself. I have a couple of guests that sing with me, and Jason from String Cheese Incident guests on a couple of the tracks on percussion. And so, it's just a different thing. I've been playing with the Stringdusters now, I guess, in my 14th year or something like that. We won a Grammy a couple years ago for our record. And, we just been having a ball, and I couldn't ask for a better team to play with in the entire world, especially in bluegrass music. I love these guys, and I love what we do. But there's also like this whole other part of me where I've practiced the guitar and the mandolin, and I've sang gospel music, and I've, messed with electronics and stuff that I don't necessarily get to incorporate into my main gig,
Sure.
I'm also like one of, maybe 4 singers that kind of share that sort of singing spotlight. So you get cut down even more, so you have kind of a longing to like, hey, I need to do a little bit more. I'm going to go a little bit crazy as an artist. It drives me a little bit nuts personally to sort of be stifled in that way. And not that, I don't want to give the impression that playing with the Stringdusters is in any way stifling. It's very freeing.
Right.
But you kind of have this other side, of yourself as an artist. All of the guys, I'm sure, feel the same way. Yeah. But I just decided to pursue that side. And I guess I'm in my like maybe 5th year of trying to incorporate the looper and do that kind of thing now. And it seems like it's very viable. I do like a lot of solo shows and that kind of stuff. And I've had a lot of fun figuring out how to bring like all the mojo to the show as one guy.
Right.
I've been playing since I was 3 years old, and I don't get butterflies anymore at all. But, I'm doing the solo thing. I started to feel that feeling again of, wow, it's really all on my shoulders. And if I have a bad night, it's going to be the longest night of my life. I can't afford it. So I have to just like figure out a way to persevere. And it's made me like a way better musician. It's challenging ways that I had no idea that were possible. And I bring that now back to the table in the Dusters, I hope, and I feel like super cool. So
I don't know how things are up in Colorado there. Are you locked down, or are you kind of free to play gigs, or what's happening?
Well, our vaccine rate is higher than the national average.
That's a good thing.
Fine. And so I think we're doing pretty good. I think we could do better out here. There's a lot of people just going on about their business, of course.
Yeah.
But, our team has taken, big precautions. We've done some tours for sure. The Dusters, we've toured around the United States, and we keep our backstage now pretty locked down. And, we all wear masks, of course, when traveling, and we're all vaccinated, our whole team. So, so far so good. We've been taking COVID tests before the tour, and, when we come home, just to make sure we're all good. And so far, everything's been real good.
Excellent. Now, getting back to the album, it's a mix of covers and originals, and it opens up with a track called Footprints, which is a cover. So maybe tell us a little bit about that, because it's a little bit of an unusual choice, I think.
Yeah, well, you know, many years ago, I got this sampler, and I had this music sampler of Middle Eastern style music, but kind of played with beats and different things, and it was sort of experimental, I think, at that time, and I don't even remember where I got it from. But this melody was one that just kind of kept sticking in my head, and it was weird because, like, I'd get off a big long tour or something, you know, and I'd been on tour buses and jets and all kinds of stuff, and then lay down and sleep at night and wake up in the middle of the night with this melody going through my head. And so it was just something that drew me to that song to cover it. And I wanted to experiment with the looping, you know, heavily on this and make it an all fiddle track. So besides the percussion that Jason Hahn played on it, it's basically 5 fiddle loops, and all the sounds you hear are fiddle.
Really?
And they're using some kind of effects, or I use like an expression pedal. I use wah. I use, you know, some scratching effects that happen are all done on the fiddle. And so all the sounds you hear, and then the melody plays, you know, and that's like an effect that I use an effect pedal called a pitchfork. So I've sort of experimented with all these little things that kind of sound to my ears good on the fiddle, and I wanted to develop this track to sort of just be all that. And so I went all in, you know, and used every effect I can basically on the whole thing, and I'm kind of excited about it, so I put it first on the record.
Gotcha. And another one, you went way back and did Mule Skinner Blues, the old Jimmy Rogers too.
Well, good morning, Captain. Good morning to you, shine. Do you need another Mule Skinner? I don't need you front line. Your leg.
You know, and I heard that thing from Bill Monroe. You know, I was bluegrass upbringing, of course.
Yeah.
And I heard him do it, and it was always a song that a friend of mine used to do, and I thought, man, I really like that song. I'm gonna try my hand, so that's what I did. Same thing here. It's 3, you know, I think it's like 3 fiddle loops basically, and you know, on the record, I try to marry this thing between actually being able to do something live and what you can do in the studio. You know, to sort of set that song up live, I would have to probably set up 3 fiddle loops. That's what I would do, and then in singing the song, and it would have a little bit different arrangement probably. But on the record, I just start with the loops, you know, and kind of twist them around in there and kind of cut out some of the, you know, the fluff on the edges as far as the looping goes. So I try to make it a project that's, you know, sort of like pleasing to listen to in that way, you know. In a live set, you don't feel that time, you know, but when you're listening to it in the car, it's a little more like, oh wow, this is taking forever to set up, and sometimes loops do, you know. So I try to cut out some of that on the record.
Yep. I've been to a few shows where you see the guy building the loops up, and you're like, okay, you're going to start every song like this?
Yeah, exactly.
And what about the originals? You've got a few of your own here. There's one called Wishing But Well, which you kind of stretch out on the fiddle on that one. So tell me about your writing process.
Some like the peace, some love a little hell. An angel and the devil on our shoulder, giving us the cell. Lately you've been doing things that make me feel like I'm alone. Yeah, well, I'm stepping over my wishful heart and I'm sinking like a stone.
Well, you know, that one was one that kind of came pretty easily, actually. A lot of times I co-write songs. I have a few frequent co-writing partners that I write with, and I love that process because you usually come up with good success within 2, 3, maybe 4 hours.
Oh, nice.
You have a song, if you have somebody else to work with. If you're on your own, sometimes you can kick those things around for a month or two or longer. It just depends. This one came to me in like 15 minutes sitting at the breakfast table, and it was like a gift, and that feels fun when you get one of those. And so I just kind of wrote it, and it's not even necessarily true to my life, which a lot of my songs usually are kind of honesty style songs, but this one is not. It's just one was just a rock tune, basically, and it felt like that. And it's been one that's been popular in my live shows because of that. I can really rock out, and then I build that fiddle jam, and that's where I really shine. That's my thing, is on the fiddle, but I started out on guitar, and so that's a lot of fun to do.
Cool. Now, you mentioned co-write. One of the songs that looks like it's a co-write is Good Times, which you've written with a guy named John Weisberger. So tell me about him and tell me about the song.
I've been walking, I've been climbing, been working way too long. I need a change in my direction. Good times come. I've been ready, been waiting, been worried I might be wrong. Now it's here, I feel just fine. Good times come. I feel the good time coming on.
Well, John and I have actually been writing together forever. And, I've written more with him than anybody else, and I think we're nearing maybe 90 songs by now or something like that we've written together. And I love all of them, really, and I've cut a lot of them. The Stringdusters have cut a lot, and my solo things, I used a lot of that material that we write together.
Right.
And so it's just, we've created this flow. He's a great lyricist, and I come to the table with a melody every time, and we bounce these ideas off of each other until we have something. It's a great, fun process, and we usually come up with some success. And Good Times was just one, we were just feeling like writing a tune about, just getting away from the mundane, the work day, the things that you can feel. And even myself as an artist, as large as I can live sometimes, it's kind of like, it can be mundane just like anything else, riding in a tour bus every single day and doing all that stuff. So, it was just about escaping, getting your party on, really nothing more deep than that.
Right. And who's the female vocalist on that one?
Well, her name is Priska, simply Priska. And she's a fantastic singer from the Atlanta area. And, I actually just emailed her the track. I trust her so well. I've worked with her in the past, and I just emailed her the track, and she sang the harmony on it and emailed it back, and it was right on. So it was one of those kind of deals where we use the technology. But I definitely have worked with her in the past, and she's, I don't know, I have some deep sort of like vibiness with Atlanta for some reason. The guy that had produced the Grammy Award-winning Stringdusters record is also from the Atlanta area, and I've done records with him myself in the past. So, and Priska's from that area, and a couple other people that I write with. So it's a soulful place, definitely.
Cool. It seems like bluegrass seems to be having some kind of revival. Is it just me that feels that way, or is it I've been interviewing a lot of bluegrass people. I just talked to Billy Strings the other day, and it's all very different sounding though. So it sounds like a music that's on the move. Do you feel that way?
I think it is, yeah, and it definitely had a resurgence. There's been some bands that sort of paved the way, and had been at it for a while, like Yonder Mountain String Band and Leftover Salmon, and even Cheese Incident, and those kind of bands have been sort of crossing that threshold from like the Grateful Dead and the bluegrass world and marrying it together and calling it bluegrass, right? Right. So, and there's been a few other bands, like our band, of course, the Dusters and Green Sky, and Billy Strings has been a really, I think a breath of fresh air to the scene, for sure. He's got the look, he's got the vibe, and he's tearing up the guitar, and all of his shows, and it's an exciting show to go to. It's a community-based thing, and we all take a lot of what we do in the business from the Grateful Dead, for sure, straight up, And I've learned a lot about that scene, for sure. I came from a more traditional side and like a gospel side, and then kind of learned about the Grateful Dead and Fish and all these bands from my bandmate.
Yeah.
And so it's been, an awesome process, but definitely, I think bluegrass as a word, and as a genre, as a box, if you will, is definitely like, you know, gaining popularity more than ever because it's super organic. And I think the chops that you have to really pull it off right now are the bar is very high.
Sounds like it,
And
yeah.
if you don't have those chops, it's hard to pull it off. And so, I don't know. It's a lot of fun. It's the scene is cool, and it's just an interesting thing. And definitely, it sort of pairs off like the Fish, Grateful Dead sort of vibe. We see a lot of the same, folks in the audience for sure.
Yep. Now, speaking of, well, you do have a guitarist named John Stickley on a track called "I'm Not the Enemy." It feels very live. It was recorded live. There's a little chatter before and after, so it has that vibe.
Totally live, I knew if anybody could go in there with me in the studio, it would be John Stickley that could do it. And he's, man alive, he rips a guitar completely to shreds. And he was in the studio actually at the same time I was. I recorded a lot of that record in Asheville, North Carolina. And so when I was there, he was there, and I was like, I found that out, and I hit him up, and I was like, can you come over and do this track? I think it'll take us like, just a few minutes. Like, we'll go through it once or twice, and it'll be good. So we went in there, and sure enough, we rehearsed it a couple of times, and then we went in and did like 2 takes, and I think we chose the best take. And that's really fun. It was a really, really super intense time in the studio because I hadn't honestly picked with John Stickley a whole lot. I had some, and I knew he was a hot picker. But so when you get into the studio and you're facing off on a brand new song and you're going against, kind of not against each other, but it raises like an energy and an intense, like almost not a competition, but you're kind of coming from that same zone.
Right.
And so the bar was high and the energy was high, and we just ripped it, man. I was really thrilled with the way the track came out.
Were there multiple takes or just one?
We did 2 takes, and I think we chose the best of the 2.
Right, I'm sure you did. So I think, so the Stringdusters, did you guys do a tribute to Bill Monroe recently as well?
Yeah, we did, and that was a very pandemic, making records during the pandemic type of thing.
Yeah.
Dusters have been playing bluegrass, all of us, forever. It's a foundation that we have in common. And so we couldn't really probably do this as the way we did this record as if we did a Dusters record. In fact, we got together to do a Dusters record over the summer of the pandemic. And that'll be starting to move out pretty soon.
Gotcha.
But in the meantime, we decided to do this Bill Monroe thing. And it was a way where we could have one person build the track with one instrument, usually Andy Falco on guitar, and then he would be able to email the track to the next person. And the next person would lay down their thing. And we did it all, not having to actually be together in person. We know bluegrass kind of, and the feel's so cold, it was just like, there's certain things that you just do in bluegrass to make it bluegrass, especially if you're covering Bill Monroe.
Sure.
And, we added a few Stringduster flares, of course, to put our signature on it, but we tried to pay tribute,
Yeah. So how do you feel about recording that way from when you're not even in the same room? Is it different for you as a musician than when you're kind of vibing off each other and looking at each other?
It is for sure. But it's also kind of fun because, in the studio, sometimes what you get is what you get. How you feel that moment during the song is probably what you're going to get. Maybe you'll have a chance to fix it later.
Yep.
But at home, you can spend as much time as you want on that and get the best sound and get, do all of the stuff you want to do on the break and that kind of thing. And so that, for me, is kind of refreshing. And so I'll just have fun and play around with that. And it's also, you get better at the energy transfer, to be able to play off of each other. And we've been a band for so long, it's so obviously pretty helpful for that kind of situation.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're having fun.
Yeah.
Do you travel much outside of the U.S. or is it mostly?
A little bit we have in the past. We've been out to Germany for 5 weeks and went out to all the countries around Germany.
Right.
We have a lot of international plans coming up over the next few years, actually, that are sort of in the gauntlet, and I'm really excited about that. I'm a big history buff, and I love archaeology and that kind of sort of all that any kind of history related things.
Sure.
I'll be into, and so. Traveling, of course, and that goes hand in hand. So looking forward to doing a bunch of that kind of stuff. I'd love to get out to New Zealand someday. It sounds amazing.
It is amazing. Yeah, come on down. once they let people in.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of locked down at the moment.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks very much for spending all this time talking to me. I really appreciate it. Sounds great. So.
Right on. I appreciate it. Thanks for having the chat with me for sure and talking about my music.
My pleasure. See ya. Have a great day. Bye.
Take care.